Hello, my name is Leanna. I'm a Master's of Social Work student at the University of Utah, and I'm presenting Parenting Insight and Tips. These are evidence-based principles from the book Parenting from the Inside Out. This is a great book to help the parent better understand themselves so they can create meaningful relationships with their children. It is not my intention with these videos to shame, blame, or compare parenting styles. I just want to provide some support and education around relationships. So take what works and leave what doesn't. Chapter 8 of the book talks about disconnection and reconnection within the parent child relationship. This happens a lot as the parent strives to create structure, maintain rules and roles within the household, and it can be a tricky thing to navigate. So, when there's that break in maybe attunement or the child and parent seeing eye to eye on certain things, we call that a rupture. The book states parents need to be able to understand their own behavior and emotions and how they have contributed to the rupture in order to initiate a repair process. So, within this quote is a strong undertone of accountability. I think that sometimes as parents and as adults, we struggle to acknowledge our own role within a relationship and the mistakes that we made, especially when it's with a child, because we feel like we should know the things that we're doing and not make those mistakes. But that's actually a really important thing for a child to witness is an adult making a mistake and normalizing it because it's going to happen forever. That is part of the human experience. So when an adult and especially a parent can model and provide an example of behavior correction and conflict resolution and emotional regulation in a good way and a productive way and take accountability, that really provides the child with a sense of security. So it is important to recognize the rupture and be intentional in the reparation. So, why do we want to do this? Why are we focusing on this? What happens when there's a rupture without repair is it can create a deepening sense of disconnection between the parent and child. This prolonged disconnection between the parent and child in their relationship can create shame and humiliation for the child. And so, yes, the parent might feel some shame and humiliation of making a mistake, but it can be different for the child because it becomes ingrained in their idea of themselves. Um, so it's not just this feeling and passing emotion, it becomes who they view as themselves, as their character, as their worth, is maybe that they can't expect things to get better. They can only expect uncertainty and making mistakes. And that creates a lot of anxiety within the relationship. So there are chronic and toxic emotions that arise for children that affect their worldview, their self view, when there's no reparation made. So I liked this quote from the book. We are not meant to live in isolation, but are dependent on one another for emotional well being. In our Western culture, we don't really like to acknowledge this. We think that we're independent beings and that we should be able to control our emotions regardless of what other people do to affect them. But the reality is, we live much more fulfilling and deep and rich lives when we include other people and we have healthy relationships, which includes making mistakes and making repairs. So there are different types of rupture that are evident, especially within the parent child relationship. There's oscillating disconnection, and this refers to the need of both the parent and the child to have kind of alone time as well as time together. And this is just what happens in relationships is that we explore this balance between independence and autonomy and connection and being social. And so that's normal and that's to be expected. Benign rupture is when misunderstandings happen, where there's a miscommunication of messages, when behavior doesn't match words, when intentions are misread. And so these are not real. Benign rupture just means that it's not intentional and it's not it's not something that is done to be mean or on purpose. Um, so that is also just something that happens, especially when children can't communicate themselves well and when parents are trying to put on a front when they probably should be more honest with how they're feeling. Then there's limit setting rupture. This comes when there are rules that need to be set within the household and structure created. So a child can feel emotional distress and disconnection when they want something that the parent cannot allow. This can be like curfew, it can be chores around the house, it can be going to school. And again, something that's to be expected is this kind of tension between what can be permitted and what can't, and the child's understanding of those things. Then there's toxic rupture, and this is something that we want to avoid. It's not something that we like really expect, and that happens normally within the relationship. This happens when the parent loses control of their emotions and displays really negative behaviors such as screaming, name calling, threatening. This can also be intimidation or severe isolation and blaming. And this happens because mainly there's something within the parent that they are experiencing, like a trigger to a past event. And so it's not necessarily about the child at this point and their relationship and what happened in that moment. It's more about the parent and what they're experiencing due to their unresolved or leftover issues. So, repairing ruptures is important to do it timely and to take accountability. And here we have listed ways to repair ruptures according to those different ruptures that we talked about. So, oscillating disconnection, provide that warmth and empathy. Be clear in your needs, that you need some time alone or that you need some time with your partner. And maybe the child needs to learn to take their time alone while you spend time with your partner. Just setting those boundaries for yourself and being warm in doing it. In the benign ruptures, um, again, make sure that those words and actions align. So, a lot of parents and just adults, people in general, will say, I'm fine, and not act like they're fine. And that's really confusing to a child who's maybe not used to or doesn't have that experience in reading emotions. They really just kind of hear what somebody is saying and try to understand how the behavior is matching with the words. So again, make the repairs in a timely and caring manner and try to be honest with yourself about what you're saying and what you're doing. The limit setting rupture, it's really important to empathize with the child and to reflect their experiences back at them. This can look like saying, yeah, it's really hard when you want to have dessert before dinner. I also really like ice cream and I wish that I could eat it all the time, but it would make me sick. And I know that if you do it, it would probably make you sick too, because that's what happens to humans. And so that really stinks. And I'm sorry. We can, if we finish all of the dinner and we have some nourishing food in all the different categories that we need to be nourished in, then we also can have ice cream. Things like that, where you're providing that understanding, you're meeting them where they're at, and then you're still holding that boundary. The toxic ruptures, these ones are tricky. If they do happen, make that effort to repair as soon as possible, and accountability is huge in this one. Um, be empathetic, be warm, and take accountability for saying and say things like, I yelled and that was probably really scary to you. That's not what I want to do for you. Like, I want to be that loving, caring person in your life. And when I yell, I understand that that makes you scared, and I'm sorry about that. The toxic ruptures can put a person in a prolonged state of disconnect from their higher functioning. And so, while it is acknowledged that these repairs can take time, because it also takes time to get into that higher level of thinking and functioning again. Um, just really, we really want to do that and make the repair as soon as possible. So, tips to remember: take accountability and seek to repair quickly. This is probably just the most important thing when we are experiencing that disconnect and rupture. Remember that this provides a model and an example for the child. And so, lots of times, again, we think of it as our own self worth and our own ability to parent and to adult well when we don't make mistakes. But really, the best thing that we can do for our children is to create a good example for them in recognizing, I make mistakes, I take accountability, and because I do it, I hope that you can do it too. Remember that the adult can meet the child where they're at, and the child should not be expected to meet the adult where they're at. So it's, even if we are kind of feeling like we're the ones putting in the effort, we're the ones who are taking accountability, we're the ones who are being empathetic, that's kind of to be expected, because a child doesn't know those things. They don't have those examples for them. They don't have the experience, especially, and the understanding of what those things mean. And so, the better that we can do that for them, and the more that we can do that for them, the quicker they can learn those things and be able to meet the adult where the adult is at as they grow up. Um, and remember that children provide a safe environment for learning. They don't judge. They don't really have that many expectations, right? Because they don't have that experience in life yet. They're looking to that caring adult in their life to just be caring, to be thoughtful, and to show up for them. So acknowledge those mistakes and look at it as an opportunity to provide for the child what they need in order to become that independent, responsible, and healthy adult that you hope that they can become. I liked these quotes from the book, and I'll just end with them. Allowing your child to have his distress without trying to punish him or indulge him can offer the opportunity to learn how to tolerate his own emotional discomfort. So, a lot of times when parents feel distress about their child feeling distressed, there will be consequences and punishment layered on top. So it's like you're grounded for a day, and then you're grounded for a week, and then your phone is also taken away, and then your car is taken away, and you can't even drive yourself to school. And it just gets layered. And so remember that a child reacting to a boundary being placed is to be expected. So allowing them to experience their emotions without, again, indulging that and like taking away the consequence from them or punishing them more for it by layering on the consequences, allows the child the opportunity to learn emotional regulation, to learn that emotional discomfort, to be able to own it and work through it, without it being kind of complicated by maybe a parent's in very like their variability in actions. Uh, basically allowing the child to learn how to expect um, reparation and ruptures to go. Then this other quote: in the repair process, the child learns that although the going might get rough at times, reconnection can be achieved, bringing with it a new sense of closeness with the parent. So, this is a great way to think about acknowledging our own mistakes and the repair process that we need to go through with the child and initiate with them, it allows the child to learn how to expect life to go. That mistakes can be made and that they can get over it. They can learn from it and grow through it, that it's not going to affect their self worth. It doesn't affect their value or how much they deserve love or good things in life, but that it's just part of the human experience. So I hope this was helpful. Good luck.